To the latest in Ukraine now, where a round of massive airstrikes hit the capital of Kyiv overnight, leaving 80% of the city without water. 80%. This comes after Russia blocked Ukrainian ports and cut off grain export, accusing Ukraine of an attack against the Kremlin's Black Sea Fleet. Right now, there is no word of any injuries from the latest air attacks. Retired U.S. Army Major John Spencer is here to talk more this morning about the latest round of strikes. He's the chair of the Urban Warfare Studies with the Madison Policy Forum, also the author of the book Connected Soldiers. Great to have you as always. Let's start with the fact that the power grid, the water system are part of Putin's strategy. How critical is that right now, seeing that 80% of Kyiv, a city of about 3 million, is without power?
It's vital to the survival of millions of people in Ukraine. I mean, you can only survive 3 days without water. I mean, Putin's goal, since he couldn't win on the battlefield, was to punish the Ukrainian civilians. It won't work to, quash their will to resist in their country, but it will cause massive suffering. And I think the international community has to hold Putin accountable for his clear war crimes. There is no military necessity, military value in the terrorism that Putin is doing all across Ukraine.
It has to be complicated to try and restore some of the infrastructure as you've got much of the country on the front lines fighting on the battlefield. So what type of support would you like to see from other nations in trying to help rebuild infrastructure at the same time that a war is happening?
Yeah, so I mean, first you have to protect what infrastructure hasn't been hit yet. So the air defense systems like the NASAMS and many other systems that have been promised, are on the way, need to be rushed there as fast as possible. And there are large-scale generators and other capabilities to restore the infrastructure, to create temporary infrastructure that can be rushed from neighboring countries. And it's happening. It just needs to happen a lot faster. But I mean, my biggest concern is really getting those air defense systems to protect the civilians and the infrastructure.
And we are seeing some success. I mean, Ukraine has been successful in striking down many of these Russian missiles as they come across the sky. The fact is they just can't get them all at this point.
Yeah, over 80%. I mean, it's really historic. I mean, Ukraine's the second largest country in Europe. It's a vast, very large country, and Russia is targeting all the cities. So their ability to shoot down 80% of the missiles and the Islamic regime drones that they were recently supplied is very impressive, but it needs to be 100%.
Talk a little bit about the battlefield going into winter, and are Ukraine's forces equipped enough to survive these challenging cold months ahead on their own terrain?
I mean, are they equipped enough? Absolutely not. There are a lot of things that they haven't been given yet, or not enough at the scale of the war they're fighting across multiple fronts. I mean, the winter will impact them greatly, but it will impact the Russians a lot more. I mean, part of the aid packages the U.S. has sent, it has been winter equipment, winter clothing. All that needs to continue and to be really amped up in scale. But they're not going to fight. I mean, Russia wants them to slow down in the winter, wants the winter to give Russia a chance to rebuild after its massive losses. Ukrainians aren't going to stop, but that equipment, continuing to resupply them with artillery rounds is just as important. But the cold weather is going to have an impact.
Yeah, and on the Russian forces as well, we know that they're dealing with equipment issues and supplies along those front lines as well. We always appreciate you coming on, Major John Spencer. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Nationwide protests